Holy backlog! This is Flight Check, Season 3, Episode 14. Season 4, Episode 14. Wow. I got so used to saying Episode Season 3.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. But we're back once again talking all things FlyQuest. From League of Legends to FPS to fighting games to everything else going on. My name, as always, is Sandy Toes, and to my left, and only my left tonight, my fellow host Nox War, Curly Double Q, out tonight, unfortunately, quote, rotting on the couch a bit, according to him. So that is just how things are, unfortunately. But we're here, we're proud, we're happy, and we're ready to rock and roll with a lot of information that we have to go over. A lot has happened. It's been several weeks, actually, since we have done any kind of show. So we're going to get into it. There is a lot of information to discuss. We're going to try to hit everything that we can within reasonable time and give it the appropriate discussion it deserves. First of all, Nox, going to ask you, what's been going on last few weeks? You were at a music fest last week, as I recall.
Yep, I went to Ooby Dooby, which is an EDM festival in Fort Worth, Texas, and that was my first ever festival, and it was sick. I had a blast.
Nice. How was the heat?
The Sunday was bad because we went at like 4 or 5 p.m. and that in Texas, sun at that time is just terrible. Saturday wasn't too bad because we went after dark and it like cooled down like 10 degrees. It's still hot the entire time, but like I lived in Texas for over 2 decades at this point. You get used to it, but at a certain point during the daytime, it's just rough. Make sure you bring headphones or earplugs rather. Bring earplugs. That saved me. I already have reduced hearing in my left ear as it is, and so that really made sure I could truly enjoy the experience. And 100%. I had a blast, man. I would highly recommend people go to festivals, whether it be EDM, rock, whatever music you're into. It is just a fun time.
Totally. Yeah, as I get older, I cannot recommend enough having earplugs. I actually have some right here. Hashtag not sponsored, but I like these a lot. I don't know if you can see these.
Oh, the ER20s? I looked at those.
Yeah. So they're really good because they keep, like the normal foam earplugs, those just like muffle stuff. This like actually gets the frequencies that are going to kill your ears the most. So you can actually still hear everything pretty well, but you're not going to go home with your ears ringing.
Yeah, the one, and we can just real quick tangent on it, is the ones I got, they have, just the way they're angled or the way they're shaped is like, it blocks out all extra sound that is not what you were directly listening to. So like all the extra verbiage that's going around, like that's what's blocked out. So it narrows down the overall hertz that you're hearing, or decibels, not hertz, the overall decibels you're hearing, while also focusing in on what you're actually listening to. It's great.
Sick. That's awesome. Nice. Well,
what have you been up to the past couple of weeks, though?
Well, on Friday, our washer decided to. Actually, it might have been on Thursday. On Thursday, I was running a load of laundry, and it was like a normal amount. It was like I was washing our sheets and towels, which I do all the time. Very normal, has never been a problem. And then that day, I started hearing like a weird, a noise that it's making during the spin cycle that is not the normal spin cycle noise. Opened the door, smelled like a burning odor. Submit the maintenance request that night. And then the problem was Friday, we left the house early in the afternoon because we were going out with some friends for the weekend, just doing like a little getaway. And we get the message about the work order, and it, instead of saying completed, it says suspended. And we're like, suspended? What does suspended mean? Lo and behold, we come back, and we get back on Sunday afternoon, and it just means that they're coming back on Monday to replace it. So this morning, I'm literally lying in bed. We're like both kind of waking up. Kat's about to start work, and then they knock on the door at like 9, 10 in the morning to like come in and replace. So I'm like, well, better throw in a shirt, and whatever. And interestingly enough, to segue this into LCS content, I was just started watching the Sylvex LCS video that he just dropped, and I was thinking we could discuss that first. I have not finished watching it, so I want to hear from your perspective what I should expect, what your thoughts were on it. So, go ahead and bias me for or against it. I am here ready to be influenced into watching this or into not watching it.
You absolutely should watch it. It is a great historical piece on what the LCS started off as and what it once was.
Nice.
It had a lot of nostalgic vibes in it, a lot of great memories, if you will, and dramatic moments too. Because I mean, let's be honest, the LCS back in its early heydays was very grassroots, which is a term that is used fairly often. And so there's things that are not very professional, and it shows the ugly side of it too. But honestly, it's kind of what's heartwarming about it, and the memories of it, right? And then it kind of goes into some of the more modern day stuff and how the LCS has developed into this giant league that it was back in like 2016 to 2018 when it's like true hype period was. And then it also starts to dip into some of the hypocrisies and some of the decisions by Riot and some of the downfall of how the LCS has been dealing with lately. And then, I mean, and it does end on a hopeful note too, right? So it's a whole emotional roller coaster. I cannot recommend watching it enough. I think Sylvex killed the video, and I think everyone who was or is an LCS fan should watch it because it will, A, give you a reminder of where we came from, B, what we can strive to be again.
Nice. I mean, you've definitely convinced me. I already was planning on watching it, but I'm looking forward to getting into it. I think we need more content creation like this. I remember we used to get like awesome like hype videos from the community all the time. It felt like regularly we would get that like before, playoffs or finals or whatever. People would just make their own hype videos. And I don't recall seeing those as often these days. Maybe I'm just missing them because I'm definitely not on Reddit as much. I'm not on the subreddit.
They're not really on Reddit either just because of the way Reddit mods like to filter stuff out.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you cannot do self-promotion. Hello, I'm still banned.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's truly unfortunate. Well, thankfully, though, the LCS is coming back, and there is FlyQuest news to discuss. The big thing, and we are so many weeks late on this, but the report, I don't believe it's actually been confirmed yet, interestingly enough. If I go to Lolpedia, check NA, and look towards summer season, I believe, well, FlyQuest hasn't even like released it. Yeah, so right now, it's still listed as like Jensen in the mid lane. However, it has been reported that Quad is getting promoted up from the Fly Challengers roster, replacing Jensen. Jensen has been reported to be moving over to Dignitas, and that is a whole thing over there. That roster's gotten completely revamped. We'll touch on that later, I'm sure. But let's just start right here, right now. Quad to LCS. I don't remember if we had talked about this before, but it was kind of like, it was rumor, I think, maybe, and now it's like for real. So I'm just going to ask you straight up, like, when you first heard it, what was your instant reaction?
I'm not surprised. I'm just not surprised, right? Like I put out a little like quick 5-minute vlog thing where I snuck into a meeting room at my work and I just gave my quick thoughts on it, and I'll reiterate those thoughts really quick. In that Jensen was not having a bad split. In fact, he was having a good split. There's a reason why I made the little skit that I did where I was like, oh, I'm such a Jensen hater, and then it's like all these like little clips of me hating on him, and then it's just like, oh, well, if you look at how he played this split, he actually played pretty good.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, Jensen had a good split. But I think that it was very obvious and it was very apparent in like interviews that Jensen and Inspired and perhaps even the rest of the team were just not vibing and not clicking in the way that they want to actually play on the Rift.
Right.
And so the decision behind this comes down to you will have a higher ceiling if you put quad in. You will also have a lower floor though. And
Right.
so it's a bit of a risky decision, especially going into summer. But at the end of the day, I mean, this FlyQuest squad with the investors and all the money that's being put in and everything that's going on, like this roster has to win in this league. It has to win, right? It's not as
Right.
bad as last year with like Vikla and Prince, but it's still a win now roster. You must achieve a lot of good things with it, and so um, yeah, I'm not surprised, and so we'll see how it pays off, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I thought about it more, um, I felt much better about it, and I'm actually excited to see what it was. The fact of the matter was, and I know it was happening mostly in the early part of NACL, but the fact of the matter was, Quad was just absolutely rinsing um, the folks in NACL for the most part.
ISCS differential out of anyone in the world,
Right, and like
not just NACL world.
I'd argue like that is somewhat inflated by his performance in the first half of the split. Like things definitely came back down to earth, but it's not like things came back down to earth and all of a sudden he looked bad, right? He still was playing very well. He just was playing so far above his peers in that first half of the split that it just kind of like took over all the stats. So I think he's going to be good. Um, I think there's people who were their instant reaction was Korean mid. He won't communicate. No English, meh. But like, we know he actually speaks pretty good English. I don't see communication being a problem, and I'm excited to go with another. Like, I know he's not like a super like rookie, but with another youngish player, um, who like in that same like Masu Busio realm, and pair them with vets in the top and jungle. Like I think this is a winning formula that, to be fair, like the formula worked really well in the spring season where it was three vets and two rookies. Now you're just saying two vets and three rookies. And I wouldn't even argue that you can't even really say that Busio and Quad are really rookies. Like they're getting to that like veteran, status. You could argue that like a year and a half in the league for Busio is like okay, he's getting to veteran. He'll be a veteran by the end of the season. I'm sure. Quad
Yeah,
has had
I
Quad's had LCK experience, and whatnot. So it's like these guys are not rookies by any sense of the word. Um, you could just call them like young, young players for sure. Young promising players. But I think ultimately it's a good move, and I agree with your take that higher ceiling, lower floor. But I think what we needed to see was more of that higher ceiling. I'm willing to sack a couple more games, especially with we're coming up to best of threes. I'm willing to sack a couple games here and there if it means that there's more opportunity for this team to pop off and perform really well. And when you're not stuck in best of ones where you have to play so safe or you're experimenting, you can't just do it as much. I think this is actually a really good opportunity for a player like Quad to come in and really show this league what's up.
it is also scarier though because it is still technically just seven quote unquote games. Like if you lose a series, that is like a seventh of your possible win loss records just gone off the map or off the record board, right? So
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's more games, which is good, but it is a little more intense in that aspect because if you drop a series, like you are immediately really far behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true. 100%. What are your I mean in terms of Quad and Inspired, like, what are you looking for? Because I've seen some people talk about. I saw one take where it was like, all right, Inspired got what he wanted, a mid laner who's just gonna do what Inspired tells him to. Are you seeing that as like the future of this partnership, or what's your take? What's your thoughts on this?
Uh, I mean, so I could go very in depth on this, but
I mean, we've got time.
I'll try and keep it narrowed down to specifically what I'm expecting to see. So I'm nervous that what will happen is something like MSI happens, where basically Inspired is leading this team, right? And if he's off kilter or if he's not got the right strategy, shit goes sideways and it looks ugly, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because that's what MSI was. So what I'm hoping to see with Quad is someone with slightly like, because Jensen mechanically was doing okay. He had some flubs in playoffs, especially in the finals. I'm hoping mechanically Quad is maybe a little bit more stable slash maybe higher peaks than Jensen. I'm not really like, and I'm talking like 1 to 2% difference here. I really don't think the difference is that big between Quad and Jensen. Um, but I think the overall play style, because a lot of the times Jensen did not like roaming. If it was something like mid jungle around raptors or maybe wolves, like that'd be about as far as he was roaming. But he was never like roaming to the top side or the bot side. Quad, on the other hand, is someone who's willing to take like leaps into other lanes and really put his influence on the game. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to see will happen. And I hope that he will manage to meet up with Inspired more often and really just punish teams like
Yeah.
with giant 4-man dives or 3-man dives, whatever it may be. Because a lot of the times, like you would see Inspire go top and it was just a 2v1 or maybe a 2v2 if the other jungler was counter matching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or same thing down bottom, right? You would never really see Jensen in those scenarios all too often unless it was just a clear, obvious, like, well, I got my wave shoved in and I don't need it back. I guess I can make that roam all the way down. I'm expecting Quad to be able to make those sacrifices in the mid lane a little more to make those roams happen and maybe really truly push FlyQuest forward into these winning scenarios.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. I think what I'm looking most for here is that it is not a Inspired and his mid lane ward, but kind of the that partnership, that tandem that we would want to see, where they are coordinating, they are working together. But that Quad is able to go and roam and make his own plays, across the map. I think it would be really unfortunate if it was just simply to be, yep, Quad is leashed to Inspired, and and that's all there is to it. Um, okay, final question on Quad. Just in general, how do you think this is going to shape like some of the comps that this team plays, knowing what we know from what we saw Quad playing in Challengers and Jensen's champ pond, which I know I was a big proponent of, like, Jensen plays more than two champs, guys. He played like four. um
He played 4 at a good level, and then like 1 or 2 that were like just whatever. You didn't really want to see him again.
yes, so like what's your thoughts on what like kinds of comps we might see? Are you looking for some more aggressive comps? Are you predicting, stick with like kind of the stable comps that we were seeing? I mean, obviously Bwipo's up there in the top lane, and he's still going to want to, play his weird champs all the time. So is it going to be necessary for Quad to just like stick with, some of the more simple, control mage champs, or what?
I mean, hey, it does come down to meta a little bit, right? And honestly, maybe you can fill me in a little bit. But during his time in the when was he in the LCK? What season was that?
I want to say it was 22 off the top of my head, but I will triple check that for you.
LCK 2023. I found it. Sorry.
Yes,
Um,
23 on Nongshim.
Yeah, so I'm looking at his general champ pool right now, and it's pretty much always just been control mages. A lot of Annie, Cassiopeia, Azir when it was really really big, and then when you got to NA, uh, I'm assuming Azir's still in his pool, but Azir was just disabled during that whole time frame.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Talia, a lot of Ari, some Cassiopeia still mixed in here and there. Annie, Nico. I would say in general, I think you're not really going to see a super different champion pool from Quad, right?
Right.
I think a lot of it is just going to come down to how he chooses to utilize the somewhat similar champ pool as Jensen.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to just mainly come down to, like I said, just maybe slightly more aggressive laning that may or may not give more windows to roam. But I don't think it's going to gain him inherent advantages in terms of like monetary like gold gain, right? Where
Right.
it's gonna he's gonna item diff like the enemy mid laner.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna give him better windows to try and like maybe help influence the map in other areas.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Well, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited. Are you excited? I think that's the biggest question. Are you excited about this?
I'm curious. Like I wouldn't say I'm excited because I think a lot of people were sitting here hyping up Quad and like I keep dropping the fact like, oh, he had the highest CSD in the world. Like, and I do that to hype him up, right? Because I do think he will be good, but I don't think this is going to be like to make a comparison point, I don't think this is going to be like Jimenez, right? Where Jimenez was just also crushing the league back in 2023, and he gets promoted up, and then he does super well in the LCS either. I don't think this is the same level of prowess that Quad has been demonstrating as like Jimenez was back then, and so I think it will be okay for FlyQuest. And at the end of the day, this kind of just goes back to our very first original point of it raises the ceiling for FlyQuest. And I think that's what you really, really need. You got to take the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the difficulty that we had was we had a player who provided a very specific piece of the puzzle, but I don't think it was everything that was needed to take this team to the next level. I'm excited to see if Quad could be that piece. I don't know for sure, but I'm optimistic about this. And I am all for making a move if you legitimately think that this will get you to the next level as a team. And I don't think that this move was made without that thought in mind. I think that this was a very specific, like, we need to level it up, and this is our best bet to do so. So I'm pretty excited just to see what happens. Speaking of things I am excited about, LCS announced today, finally, best of threes and a revamped playoffs format for Summer Split, which seems pretty interesting. I mean, finally, best of threes. They're here. I think we've talked about it before, but again, I'm definitely excited. I mean, it's going to be great to see, Mark Z in his video was like, up to 50% more games, which is like the most corporate way of saying it.
Most corporate slug way of saying we got more games.
More games, up to 50% more games. I mean, here's the fact. Like, we will play, there's like no way you do not play more games than 14, right? Because it's like, you will play, all 3 games of a best of 3 at least once. So you're gonna play, like, I would say with max potential for 21 games, you're probably gonna play like 16 to 18 is my best guess, which gets you back to what LCS used to be when you had double round robin best of ones. So, like, yay, guys. We took a step forward back to where we were before, kind of. So, I think it's an interesting... everyone's very excited. Like, yeah, best of 3, best of 3. But, like, we had gone from 18 to 14 games. And, like, odds are you're probably going to, at the... Like, you're not going to go best of 3. You're not going to go all 3 games every single match. So at most, you're probably getting like 18, 19, 20 games in your split. Once again, playoffs will be where the most, like at least half, if not the majority, uh, of your games are played, depending on where you fall in the bracket. So I want to ask you, like, not a ton of change in this bracket, except for now, the gauntlet is back. I don't think anyone was really predicting this. I don't think anyone had really talked about playoffs format, but I don't think this is really getting talked about a lot today. So I want to ask your thoughts. First two losers in round one drop down, play each other, and then it's like your classic gauntlet bracket all the way, and the final winner of bracket qualifies for Worlds, which I think is a really exciting way of doing it. This looks very similar to previous LEC playoff formats, I believe, as well. So that's kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on first best of three, and then maybe this new playoff format?
Best of three is cool. I'm happy that it's there. I still think at some point Riot has got to figure out how to make it at least double round robin. And if that's too many games or if it's too hard to schedule, you can make it best of two. That's fine. You've gotten the LCS back to a place where the number of games being played is back to what it was before, which is still, compared to the rest of the major leagues, like minuscule at best. Like, congrats, you're not F tier anymore. You're still D tier in terms of the number of games being played.
Well, I mean, let me just jump in real quick. I mean, LPL, they started a couple days ago. They played double round robin best of threes in this like placements thing. So you're going to play like minimum 6, maximum 9 games. If you're in like groups A, B, or C. Yes, group D plays more games, whatever. Then you go to the summer season, and it's single round robin within group best of threes. So that's like another 14 to 21 games. So you're up to like 20 to 30 games here. And then you get into playoffs where you're going to play even more. So you're playing just like you're basically just in the regular season alone, you're playing double the amount of games that LCS is playing just in your regular season alone.
Right. Yeah, I just we've got to up the number of games one way or another. That's what all the pro players are asking for. That's what all the staff are asking for. There's just not enough practice that's actually happening for these LCS teams. And before you say like, oh, but scrims, you have all this extra time to scrim. Like, scrims are different than stage games. Like, scrims will give you an idea of what should be played and how you should play, but there is something about the actual experience of being like, hey, this game counts. Like, you need to lock in for this game and you need to play it like it's like it actually matters, because it does matter.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm really, really hoping for. And whatever format they come up with, I hope it's interesting and fun for the viewer, because obviously you can get like game fatigue or viewer fatigue if there's just too many games and it doesn't matter, yada yada yada. But at that point, like that's so far and away that it doesn't even matter at this point. You need to worry about getting actual number of games up at this point. And if we get too many games, then we can tone it back down.
Yeah.
In regards to the gauntlet, I think it's kind of fun and exciting personally. It was something I'd been wondering about a little bit, because I thought you did need like a different format than what you did in spring, and I didn't think you needed all 8 teams. I saw some arguments like, well, you should just bring all 8 teams in, and it's like, what's the point of having a playoff at that point? Like, the whole thing's just for seeding.
Like some weird like group stage, and then top 4 make it to like a weird bracket. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, the regular season has to have some consequences if you don't perform.
Yeah.
I don't want you just literally lackadaisically doing whatever the whole regular season. It's like, okay, well, it's playoffs times now. Let me turn it on. Like, then what's the point of watching regular season? So,
and I would argue that, like, regular season, you're incentivized even more, because you make top 2, you are 1 best of 5 away from qualifying for Worlds.
Yep. Yeah, and so you get rewarded for that too.
And 3 through 6, you lose, you're 1 best of 5 away from getting knocked from, like, your season's over. You're down to the gauntlet. Like, this is like, I think this makes regular season even more like intense, where it's like, yeah, you have to put up or shut up, and if you're not top two, then all right, you're gonna really have to dig deep.
Right. So no, I enjoy the fact that there's a different format, and I think it makes it a little more intense, especially if you get knocked out early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's always something fun about watching a lower bracket run,
Oh
and
yeah.
this is like the epitome of a lower bracket run,
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like if you drop out, like you have every team to go through at that point.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm down for the gauntlet. I'm excited to see it. I think it works, and I'm just glad because I know some people really just wanted to have 8 teams, and I did not want that. So I think I'm pretty happy with it overall. Now here a question for you
Yeah.
is: would you rather have this format now, or would you rather swap it with spring and have the spring format playoffs in summer? Do you think that matters at all to you?
Hang on, I have to go remind myself. Wait, so are you talking about have
The spring playoffs format, like, would you rather have that be now in summer, and the summer one that they're going to do, would you rather have that in spring?
like from here on out, basically?
Yeah, I don't know if it matters at all. Where like, is it more intense? Is it more like
I think
drama of watching
I
this
think
format in summer?
I think this format there is more drama for summer. So like here's what like cuz here's my thoughts. I'm looking at spring bracket, right? And you had two teams start off in losers bracket anyway.
Right.
And both those teams got knocked out straight away. So let's say, and so that's that's your 5-6. So let's say you're 5-6 in the summer format. They lose in that round one. Immediately they're playing each other to stay alive, and I think that's way more interesting than they start out in lower bracket and they just have to face like someone from the top four that they're probably going to lose to. I want to know like exactly who is ranked 1 through 6. That's what I want to find out. I don't want any like I don't like this. I would actually adopt this format for both
Okay.
spring and summer. Unironically, I would do it for both spring and summer because you're actually finding out who is 1 through 6. Because otherwise, you're getting this weird like, yeah, NRG and Dig are tied for 5th, but it's like, but who actually really was the better team? And I know like the majority of people do not care. They really don't care. But there is a small minority, folks, like me. I really will argue to the death about who was better in spring, NRG or Dig. And I think it matters. And we didn't get to see a best of 5 between those two teams. And unironically, I kind of wonder if Dignitas of spring would have cleared NRG. I really wanted to find out.
I think they would have personally.
Exactly, but we don't know, and that's really unfortunate, in my opinion. And I don't think you're losing anything because ultimately, I think you would get something exciting for spring where it's like, okay, top 2 go to MSI. Okay, so you have your first, you have your team that makes it to grand finals. So you have one match that you have like your round 1, then round 2, and then like winners of round 2 play each other to see who's the first team into MSI. Awesome, very cool. Then that team that drops down, they wait at the end of the gauntlet, and whoever makes it to end of gauntlet plays that team to see who your second seed to MSI is. So you still have that whole like, hey, you have to win in order to not only make finals, but make MSI. And then you still have finals determine first and second seed MSI. I think it's still really interesting, and I just think it's a better playoff format all around because you really do get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You find out exactly who is ranked where, and I just think it's a much more interesting story. And I think Gauntlet is just a better story. I remember watching the Cloud9 Gauntlets of old.
2015.
Those were crazy runs. I remember watching like this Cloud9 team that was so turbo trash that like, and High comes in and just runs them all the way to Worlds as 3rd seed. Like crazy stuff happens in Gauntlet, and like I love lower bracket, I really do. But Gauntlet brings it just to another level, in my opinion, where it's like it's that whole survive and advance mentality that I just really, really love. So I'm all for Gauntlet. I want it in both spring and summer from here on out. Hopefully they stick with it. I think it's just the better format. So I'm excited to see it for sure.
Cool. Well, hopefully what ends up happening is we just get more teams in the league next year, which won't happen, but I can hope and dream.
Dude, I would take a single. I would take like a ninth team. I don't even need like a ninth and 10th team. Like LPL, they have 17. You can do an odd number of teams. You don't need an even number of teams. Like you can do it. You can make it happen.
You could. It just makes it very awkward for scheduling when LCS does not want apparently to deal with that. So
yeah,
it is
because inevitably you end up with one team who doesn't play on a day and blah blah blah, and it's a big mess. But whatever.
We can rant about it for ages, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. All right, so that's all the LCS stuff. Got to talk about Fly Challengers, because with Quad coming up, there is an opening in the mid lane for Fly Challengers. So let's talk about it. I know there have been some rumors, but nothing is confirmed. So let's go to our man on the ground, Nox, who's got his finger to the pulse of the Challenger scene. What have you been hearing? What's the latest buzz around the Fly Challengers mid lane spot?
So first off, some drama. LCS Eevee made a Sheep Esports report stating that the new FlyQuest Challengers mid laner was going to be the retired, but no longer retired because the man's tweeting about how he's just gotten out of scrims and was doing well. A Blaze Olive. And so there was a lot of talks about that and whether that was a good decision on FlyQuest's part to be picking him up for a multitude of different reasons, which I'm not going to get into. But then what ended up happening was after some discourse and some tweets, Eevee ended up deleting the tweet and also pretty much zapping all their social media. They've not been around for a hot minute. So it kind of came up in the air again, like, okay, is it not a Blaze Olive? Is it someone else? And so the rumors I have been hearing lately has been it's going to be FlyQuest Challengers Bradley, which I am so very down for. For those of you who do not know Bradley, he was originally a mid laner back in the amateur scene before eventually, because North American mid laners during that time frame were not really being given the golden light and opportunities to give themselves a shot in the LCS Academy League, made a role swap to the top side and was playing for Team Liquid Challengers for the longest time and had a very good top lane stint too. And then he had a bit of an off summer last year and took some time off, and TL replaced him, and then he worked his way back in through the OQs and qualified with CCG, if I'm recalling correctly. I may be speaking out of my butt a little bit on that one. But either way, he's back either via CCG or via FlyQuest Challengers, is my understanding. And so I'm very excited for it. I always thought he was a better mid laner than he was a top laner, and he was actually a very, very good top laner. So I'll be very curious to see what he's able to achieve. If it's FlyQuest Challengers on there, which is great because he'll have a lot of support from the staff of FlyQuest, or if it's on CCG, that's cool too. And then we still don't know the FlyQuest Challengers mid laner. But yeah, no, I'm very, very excited for if it is Bradley.
Yeah, Bradley did qualify as mid laner for CCG Esports.
Yeah.
Who have not announced who their replacement will be, assuming he's gone. Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting. I still really see this FlyQuest Challengers team as being, like, definitely should be the favorite, if you're going to pick a favorite to win. But also, like, your top two, just, like, should be top two in general. Even without, Quad, I think Bradley's still a pretty good player. And you have the core returning of Surdy, Shaden, Sajid, and Chime. Like, I don't foresee this team really struggling just because of one player changing out. And especially because, from what it seems like, if it is Bradley, not a downgrade whatsoever. Like, maybe at worst. Or maybe, I would say, would you say it's probably like a side grade? Is that how you would...
Side grade to downgrade. I think Quad was really getting into his groove, and I think
Yeah,
he was really just performing. I don't think Bradley is going to be putting on the same level of performances that Quad was,
totally.
but I think he will look a little bit underneath and is still at a very, very good level for the NACL. And I think he will still bring a lot of success to this FlyQuest Challenger squad, mainly because Shaden and Surdy and Sajed and Chime are just that freaking good, and they will make sure he finds success.
Well, it's hard to call. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that like anyone would not be a downgrade to quad, right? It's like,
Right, right.
it's
Which is why I
like,
say like side grade, downgrade, like it's very technical, small
yeah, like
margins.
technically, yeah, side grade to downgrade, but like this is still Bradley's still a good player, and by NACL standards, probably will do. I would foresee him to do very well. So I assume you're still going with probably top two for this FlyQuest Challengers roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the rosters. No, not everyone's really released what their rosters are looking like yet because everything just gets shifted around.
Oh yeah.
For those of you who read the post about the NACL that came out, it showed all the new teams that came in. Like
Mm-hmm.
Wildcard Gaming is gone. Winthrop University is in. You have Maryville University, who partnered with Brandon Sanderson, the author,
I
who
know,
Travis and
crazy.
Mark Z are big fans of, as well as Dragonsteel, I think is the brand name or
Yeah,
whatever. So they're like,
Dragon steals his thing.
yeah. So that's the new name for Maryville University. So it's no longer Maryville.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened over the offseason, a lot of roster shuffles and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, my understanding is that Dragonsteel. I'm gonna have to get used to saying that. That roster, the old Maryville University roster, it should still be the same, right? And it's still Spirax, it's still Yuji. Like those guys are very, very scary, and I still contest to this day are an LCS caliber mid jungle duo. They will always be someone to fear and to watch out for. So yeah, I'm expecting it's still going to be the same. I'm expecting a run back of this past spring finals, honestly.
Nice. I mean, that'll definitely be exciting to see. It's also a great storyline as well. It looks like, from what I can tell, I think Winthrop was the third place team. They're the ones that lost to Blue Water, and which qualified Blue Water into NACL this past summer promotion. Um, so it seems like Winthrop was just kind of like the team that was there, not knowing what happened with Wildcard. And obviously Lit Esports and Mirage had just been relegated out of NACL, so it would be unfair, I think, to put them back in. But Lit and Mirage didn't even, make third in the summer promotion tournament. So,
Well, Lit technically did because they lost in the qualification match to Blue Otter.
oh, okay. I am.
So technically, I mean, because CCG was technically first and Blue Otter was second, and then Lit was third, and then Winthrop was fourth. Is
Right.
how you would technically phrase it.
But I'll put it another way. In terms of teams and organizations that do things that have made a name for themselves in the tier 2 scene, Winthrop clears Lit Esports handily. I mean, Winthrop's everywhere. They're in a Valorant NA challenger scene. They're in obviously League's challenger scene and have been for a long time. So I'll be really interested to see what rosters they put forward going in. You did miss one interesting partnership slash promotion, partnership slash sponsorship in NACL, and that would be FlyQuest Challengers, actually.
I was just saving it for last. I
Yeah,
just
I
wanted to
mean,
give them the spotlight they deserved.
look at that perfect segue. FlyQuest Challengers partnering with NZXT, and actually, this is a great moment because, again, not sponsored, really should be, frankly, at this point. This entire stream running off of an NZXT, picked my own parts, they built it and shipped it to me, kind of build. So I did that like a few years ago. I love it, frankly. They should really throw a quick little sponsorship the Flight Check way. It just would make sense. Obviously. But
We'll shout them out every episode.
we'll shout them out every
We'll
episode.
get the name
No
out there.
problem. Yeah, this stream brought to you by an NZXT built PC. But that is the FlyQuest Challengers partnership. No word yet on if this is a FlyQuest LCS partnership as well. From what I can tell, no.
Yeah,
but we also have not gotten any news on it yet. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, from my understanding and talking to some people, it sounds like it's strictly a Challengers sponsorship, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love that these sponsorships are coming in and helping promote the NACL and giving a lot of recognition to the league because it needs it, right? So good on NZXT, good lord. Happy to see him here, and I'm happy to see him partnered with the FlyQuest. It's awesome. As for the actual main FlyQuest roster or the main team, I will be very curious to see. I'm hoping that the partnership is extended to that team too, because my understanding is, and I'm sorry if I'm leaking this, I don't think it's really a leak though, it's all over the FlyQuest website. MasterCard's no longer a sponsor for FlyQuest, and so we don't have any big sponsor brands anymore outside of like and a seat, I think, and then like one other small one that I'm blanking on the name of right now. So I'm really hoping to see this this sponsorship extend towards the main team as well.
Well, we do have a Logitech sponsorship, but
Logitech, that's what it was.
But I'm not sure if that is solely for FlyQuest Red. So
yeah, that may be for Red only. So
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's Red only. So.
Okay, yeah. Shot confirms in the chat that Logitech is purely for the Red team.
Yeah.
So no, there is no outside of Andaseat. There's not really any sponsorships for the main team currently.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, this is concerning a little bit. You would think that a team that is expanding so quickly, an org that is expanding so quickly, adding new teams, just added a Counter-Strike 2 team, sponsoring several fighting games players, running a Valorant team, running two Counter-Strike teams, 2 League teams, would be ripe for sponsorship opportunity. I wonder if it truly is a, hey, need to win, but I think like down to one sponsorship, bit of a concern. Still plenty of time, before the season starts. There's 12 days, and FlyQuest is going on their vacation. They announced this whole week, the 3rd through the 7th. So no news this week. But as we all know, FlyQuest really does love to drop news last minute. This has been a consistent trend. Week of, day of, that kind of thing. So I would not be surprised.
Regardless of administration, too. It does not matter what administration.
Yeah, literally, this has been a consistent theme since 2021, at least, probably before then as well, where just news drops like day of or the day before, and I will never understand why that's the case. I'm not in that marketing field. That's not my forte. I'm sure there's a reason behind it. Say la vie. All right. That's that partnership. That's basically pretty much everything League of Legends wise. Do you have any final things? We'll do a bigger LCS preview next week, as it will be the week before LCS kicks back off, June 15th, same day that NACL kicks back off. Any final League of Legends news before we move on to some other topics?
The last thing I'll highlight is a reminder that Riot has promised us an international event for the Tier 2 leagues, so NACL could possibly be playing against LLA and CB LOL at the end of the season, or LLAA, or I don't know what their tier 2 is. I know some people say there's no tier 2. There's technically a tier 2. It's just not a league per se. And then CB LOL A, it's probably against those teams. Either way, there's an international event that's supposed to happen according to Riot. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for FlyQuest Challengers to be there, because I think there should be good enough to actually be there, assuming that it's at least top 2 going. If it's just top 1, even then, FlyQuest has a good chance of going as well. So, very exciting stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely super exciting. Super exciting. All right, moving forward. Last topic of the night: CS2 and Fly Red. A lot going on in the last few weeks for both the FlyQuest Counter-Strike team, the FlyQuest Red Counter-Strike team, the FlyQuest Red Valorant team. Let's start with Valorant. Um, at the end of May, they made it all the way to grand finals of closed qualifier number 3, dropped 2-0 to Reform GC, who I believe is the renamed and sponsored Misu's QTs. So they made it to the main event. Thankfully, FlyQuest Red had enough circuit points where they will be 4th seed in the Series 2 event. And then I believe there's going to be a Series 3 event as well, so there's still plenty of time. But that event, technically the bracket has not been released, and I think they know who they should be playing. I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. It might be, hang on, I just had it up. I think it's going to be Paw Pals, who used to be known as... Oh, well, actually now their whole thing has been changed, so I don't know who they used to be. That might have been Misu's QTs. There's, like, several random teams that, like...
the names change so often, it's hard to keep track of.
The names change so often, it's hard to keep track. But they'll be in the main event. That actually starts June 11th. So that is in a week and a half. That is actually less than a week and a half. That's basically in a week. That's not tomorrow, but next Tuesday. And that will wrap up by Sunday the 16th. So that'll be exciting. Remember that last series, FlyQuest Red made it to... They lost 2-1 to Shopify Rebellion Upper Finals, beat, apparently it was Paw Pals, 3-1 in lower finals, and then got 3-0'd by Shopify Rebellion in grand finals, earning themselves 50 circuit points at the time. So this one, another big tournament. I do believe this is not, again, this is only purely for circuit points. This is not for placing into, like, you know, Game Changers champions, or whatever they call it. But just, like, circuit points wise, which you do need circuit points to be the number 2 team from North America. So circuit points are very valuable if you're not going to win Series 3 main event. But I will say, for me, personally, a bit frustrating on the Valorant side, looking at how things have gone. Closed qualifier number 1, lost in semis to Passion Project 2-0. Closed qualifier number 2, lost in grand finals to Shopify Rebellion 2-1. And closed qualifier number 3, lost in grand finals to Reform GC 2-0. So no wins in any of these qualifiers, just like that consistent second place / tied for third. So unfortunately, once again, Shopify Rebellion in this event, and they are just truly the best team in North America Game Changers. So I want to ask you, Nox, should we expect a second place here? It does feel like things have been on a bit of a downswing as of late. So I'm personally not expecting a win. Would second place be acceptable to you? Would that be enough?
Yeah, I would be happy with the second place finish, because I really think the Shopify Rebellion team is the best team in the world right now.
Yeah.
I've been looking at the European leagues, and I've looked at just a couple of their videos. Like, I'm not watching it or anything, but like the way Shopify plays, I really do think, I don't know if they're like in Ascension or anything, but they could be like a legit Ascension team. They could be contenders in Ascension. So for me, like, they're just far and away the best team for Game Changers in the world right now. And so if we take a second, I'm happy with it. I really just want to see this team go to champs, or Game Changers champs. That's what I really, really want to see. Right. And what's very worrying for me is we cannot ever seem to clinch against the second or third place teams, whether that be Reformed or whether it be Passion Project. Like, I don't know if it's just like a mental block when we get to grand finals because that's where we're always losing. Like, someone needs to help this team figure out like this mental hump that they're getting stuck at, right?
Yeah.
That's what I really want to see, because clearly, like, they've beaten Passion Project before. They've beat Reformed before.
Yeah.
They haven't beat Shopify before, but they've taken games off of Shopify before. Like, they have the potential to do these things. They are that good, but they're not coming up clutch when it matters most. And so I don't know if that's a sports psychologist thing, or if it's just bad play on the day, or if it's something else entirely. I don't know, but it's frustrating to see because I know this team is good enough to make it to champs, but the way they keep failing to cross the finish line makes me think that they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now because now you've got me really interested. Because I can only see the premier play-ins.
For like the rest of the world, or
well, no, for America, for like 8 teams. There's only like 8 teams it shows, so I don't know how to. I mean, I think it's just like. They probably did try. They just like I just don't think they made it in. But yeah, I think top 3 has to be the goal for sure. I would be very happy with a second place. Obviously, I would love to see them win. That would be my preference. But yeah, top 3 I think would be good. Consistently get more circuit points under our belt. Stay on pace for qualifying for game changers. I think at the end of the year, qualifying for game changers has to be the objective, no matter what, and putting on a good performance there. And like, look, if you get to game changers and you make it all the way to grand finals there, and your final opponent is once again Shopify Rebellion, so what?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Like, that's just how the cookie crumbles, So yeah, so that is FlyQuest Red. So that's June 11th. So we'll talk about that because we'll probably know the bracket a little bit more by next week, and we'll have Curly back so we can get his thoughts on it. Over to Counter-Strike. Let's hit Counter-Strike FlyQuest Red. And there was a great website that Curly told me about that was all about Counter-Strike stats, and now I can't. Team.
Curly, you were in the chat. Type the website. Help.
Yeah,
I know you're not on the show, but help.
Best3.gg. That's what I'm looking for here.
Oh, okay.
Looking for FlyQuest Red. So they played. They've played several matchups lately.
I will say I did not get to watch this past weekend because I was down in Houston, so I don't know how this past weekend went.
I was away this past weekend, so ESL Impact went really bad. Is basically the story. They went 0-2. Yeah, they lost 1-2 to HSG, and they lost 0-1. I think they lost 0-1 to Big Equipa, and then they lost 1-2 to HSG FE. And so they just dropped out 0-2. They won a single map. The round difference was -1, so it's not like they did terrible, but it really was not good. And this was probably their worst performance in a while. Interesting because, like, literally, like, right before this tournament happened, they had announced, like, a new assistant coach. So, like, trying to bring in some reinforcements. Clearly did not help, unfortunately. Goosebreeder's still, like, ranked, like, pretty highly, as was BBon in terms of, like, top players in the tournament, 7th and 10th, respectively, according to bo3.gg. But this was just a really poor showing from them, and I think they know it based off of their Twitter account, but this was, like, pretty disappointing for them. And I know they'll be looking to bounce back. They're still definitely the best ESL Impact Counter-Strike team in North America. But then like these other teams came to town, came to Dallas, and they really, just pretty much dominated. Imperial Female got the dub. That team is from. I actually don't. It looks like they're probably Russian or not exactly sure. Which you know what, that kind of tracks. With what I know about Counter Strike. Yeah. So just a really tough tournament for them. Definitely
Yeah.
disappointing. And then I
I
think
would say Dallas was rough for both CS teams, period, right?
yeah. And then I think for we'll get into them in a second. For FlyQuest Red, in terms of where is it? Oh yes, here it is. They went 4-9 in ESEA Advanced. So unfortunately, I am not sure if that means that they stay in ESEA Advanced or if they demote down. Interestingly enough, their final opponent did FF, which was interesting.
Okay.
So they didn't even play that matchup. So yeah, 4-9 to close things out. So might be getting relegated. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll find. I can look at the Twitter to find out. FlyQuest Red. Let's see if they posted anything about this. I know they didn't post anything about it today, because they're on break. But they were talking about ESL Impact all week, so. Let's see. Land Buff, Fly Red is here. Here's the video of them being cowgirls.
Kinda.
Dude, I don't know. It's so hard to find out sometimes on this stuff. Okay,
I feel like a lot of the CS stuff in general is just kind of hard to find.
Technically, it was May 27th. So let's go. Well, we're on May 21st. So I think they were just really focusing on playing. Yeah, May 24th, they lost a match. And then May 27th was their final match. Yeah, they didn't even post anything about it on May 24th. So I don't even know what happened. All right. Well, you know what? We'll find out eventually. So is what it is. I'm sure someone will post something about it. FlyQuest, though, Counter-Strike, the green team, just played at
DreamHack Dallas.
IEM Dallas, and boy, it
was a tad bit rough.
That did not go well at all. Tied for 13th. Yeah, and just like straight away, lost 1-0 to Spirit, and then got clapped
badly too. I think it was like 13-1.
It was 13-1, and then Big clapped them 2-0, so they dropped along with M80, Monty, and Complexity. G2 Stewie, by the way, winning IEM Dallas for NA.
First American, by the way, to win since Tarek, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Which it's kind of wild.
Yeah. Which is just super. That was super cool to see. I was pretty psyched about that. They are doing ESL Challenger League Season 47 right now. They do have a match coming up on like June 7th. They're in the upper bracket final. They're looking to see. They're waiting to see who qualifies for that for them. So we'll see who, and I believe winner of that goes on to ESL Season 20 or something like that. But then, so just a really rough tournament for them. Not even a single map won. So
I think what was first. I actually watched the big series, by the way.
Talk to me about it.
And it was very, very frustrating because the main one I remember was because I tuned in at the very end of Ancient, and they were just really down. Like it was like 12 to like 4 or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to catch that one, so it's clearly something went wrong there. I know Ancient was Big's map pick though, so like
Okay.
whatever, that is what it is. Nuke was our map pick, and it was very frustrating because we were up 12 to 5.
Yeah. Oh, I remember seeing this now. Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, we're going to Inferno. We're going to Inferno. It'll be okay. And basically, Big took a round. Like, all right, it's fine. The next round, I think we took an eco round, so we lost that one. All right, it's fine. Fully bought in rifle round, and just got completely. What's the word called? It's not ace like it is in League. Do you know what it is for CS?
I don't. I really don't.
Yeah, it was a 5 for 0.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all
yeah.
that's what
right.
I remember being. I was like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah.
that's really really bad. Okay, so another eco round, had to give that one up. That's 4 rounds, by the way. They need 7 to tie it. Um, and then I think there was like a half buy just to see if they could get away with it. Didn't get that one either. Well, another eco round because the half buy didn't work. And then finally they got to another full rifle round. And I think they finally. No, actually, they still lost that one. It was the next round finally when they got it to 12-12.
Yeah.
That FlyQuest finally took a round when it went into OT. And it was off of a major clutch from Alistair.
Right.
It was a 1v1, and he played it super smart, and it put it 13-12, but it didn't matter, and they went to OT, and then I think FlyQuest took one more round after that, but then Big clutched it out at 16-14.
Yeah.
But it was just like, how are you up like 12-5?
Yeah, yeah.
And you just have that such huge mental collapse on your map pick. You
very
need one round.
Yeah, really frustrating for sure. Yeah, that makes
so.
Yeah, that's definitely tough.
I don't know if that's a history of that roster of because this was an old roster of Greyhound, right? I don't know if that's like a history of them or whatever, but that was like completely. I don't know if it's a coach thing or an IGL thing, but someone's got to lock the guys down and be like, "You're fine."
Yeah,
win one.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, definitely frustrating. Frustrating way for them to wrap that tournament up. And they know they could have done better. No sense in beating them up about it online or anywhere else. But unfortunately, they did move down in the world rankings a little bit. HLTV dropped them down to 18. Still very good for this
still top
team.
20.
Still top 20. Still a good spot for them. That ranking came out today, by the way. So still pretty good. That is a good. Yeah, that's a good sign that they didn't fall down too far. All right. Well, I believe that's basically everything. Do you have anything else that we got to hit on before we call it?
I don't think so. I think big thing is just next week we're going to be highlighting all the roster shifts that happen for the LCS next week and talking about how quad, quote unquote, we'll probably do with the team and how FlyQuest as a whole should be able to do in this new environment of best of threes and new format and everything.
Yeah, totally. All right, sweet. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for tuning into another episode of Flight Check. LCS returning in 12 days. Next week, we'll do our big summer preview episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter to find out when that's happening, which, it'll be Monday night, 8 p.m., most likely. But you can still catch the show on X at Flight Check Crew, myself at Santos DB, Knox at Knoxwar with 2 R's, and our absent friend Curly at Curly_QQ_. Make sure to hop into the Flight Check Discord as well. All kinds of esports discussion and otherwise taking place in there. If you missed any part of the episode, the VOD's going to be up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning. If you're watching that and want to catch the show live, we do broadcast the episode usually every Monday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. Any final notes, shout-outs, plugs before we wrap up, Knox?
You know what? Shout out to my bed.
Nice.
I had a hell of a sleep last night after sleeping
yeah.
on the floor at my wife's friend's apartment for their engagement party in Houston this past weekend. So
Sick.
that bed was comfy last night.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. My shout out's going to be I just read this book. Turns out it's a show, and I definitely want to watch it, but I read this book called Dark Matter. If you like
Ooh, yes, it's on Apple TV. I would highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, I just
Very
read
good.
I just read the book. It was so good. If you like quantum mechanics and multiverses and paradox and all that kind of good stuff, check that out. It's going to be pretty sick. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that show is like down the line. All right. That is everything we've got. We'll be back next week to preview Summer Split. Another one. They just keep coming. So for now, stay safe out there. Bite your teeth. Don't forget to hit the head on the nail. And we'll see you all very, very soon. Adios, everybody.
Have a good one, guys. And in honor of Curly, who's not here tonight, peace, y'all.